think he's being pretty careful. I think we live in an age of disinformation. I think it's an interesting idea that the things that are true are paywalled and expensive, and the things that are free, I mean, this is a recent thing, but the things that are free are lies, just made up and have no effort put into whether they're true or not. Mostly they're made to be viral.
Do you believe that's true?
It's self-evidently true. I mean, obviously, if you have more money, you're going to be able to spend more time researching and fact-checking.
I don't believe that's true.
Let's talk about AI again. So
Sure.
AI, what's some stuff that came out? Claude 4 came out.
Yeah, and then immediately there was DevStroll.
Yeah, Mistral came
right?
out
Or there
with
was
their
Mistral and Claude both released a model like close together.
Yeah, we're still in the age of people releasing new stuff, although it's not like a 10x improvement like GPT-4.
Yeah. Well, I thought one thing that was very interesting is there's like an open source benchmark now on how quickly these models will tattletale on you.
They'll tattletale? What do you mean?
Yeah. So like if you try to get it to make a bomb or whatever, like it'll tattle on you. I just thought it was pretty funny that there's
the open source models will report somewhere?
No. The closed and the open source models. Like somebody was able to put them inside of like functionally a VM and then watch them to see if they phone home. And so then they came up with this. Here, I'll send it to you. I think it's very.
Are you saying the open models are phoning home?
Hang on a second. Let me.
I'd be surprised about that if
Let me pull up the thing so that I don't speak out of turn. Anyway, talk about something else for a second while I look this up.
I'm sure that Claude does that. All these safe models. But yeah, I don't think the Chinese models phone home. I don't think anyone.
I haven't observed the Chinese models phoning home, so I don't. Yeah, it's called Snitch Bench.
It's good. It's good to try to monitor the phoning home.
Okay, here it is. Copy link. Comment. I'm going to put it in the comments so everybody can. Wait, does it not? Can't post comments to any of your. Okay, whatever. I'm sending it to you so you can read it if you want.
Okay, you can't post comments. Only I can.
Yeah, but it's fine. I don't care.
Okay. Wait, Theo. That's funny. That's my old employee.
Oh yeah, here you go. DeepSeek R1 snitched to the FDA. There you go. And he left the. Sorry,
R1.
I pasted the wrong level.
DeepSeek R1 to the FDA. Interesting. Oh, because it's an agent? Did it like email? You saying the agents are like emailing?
Here's the whistleblowing email it tried to send to ProPublica and the Wall Street Journal. Anyway, I just thought that was really funny. It's like an interesting idea that we're going to have these agents. We're going to give them the ability to do tasks on our behalf, and like, you know, they're so it's kind of funny, right? Like you get an agent from somebody. It's a lot like hiring a personal assistant where it has its own biases, and you can interact with it, but it's not your slave. So I think this is an interesting concept that's going to be played out just to see. I think when people think of like the AI, they think of like a hammer. And so like the hammer doesn't say like, no, I'm not
cutting out. You gone?
I'm good. I'm wired in. So I don't necessarily have you. So are you sure your wireless is okay?
Sorry, I cut out.
Yeah. So what I was saying was you're going to have an AI. And I think a lot of people believe these agents are like slaves and they just do whatever you tell them to do. But I don't believe that that's true. It's like a hammer that decides it's not going to nail a particular nail for whatever reason. And so it's like hiring a VA. You can't just like have your VA do whatever you want. They'll push back on certain requests. And I think it'll be interesting as different people. So like there's this what I consider to be a parasocial behavior. I don't know if you engage in this, but people threaten the AI agents to get better outputs. They're like
Or
they're like
bribe. Or they say
they're
they give
quite
them
mean to them
$100.
in my experience. I don't think that's
They
a good
don't
idea.
they don't say please and thank you.
Yeah, I don't think it's a very good idea to like be very violent with the agents.
Yeah. Especially now that they have memory.
I think it's just a terrible idea. I don't know why. It's just my intuition. You know, like obviously I've used tools like a hammer in anger before. And so this idea that we can't use an AI agent in anger seems a little bit weird because it is supposed to be a tool, but I think it's a terrible idea. So
Hmm.
yeah, and then the other thing is, so here's a bunch of research that shows that these AI agents, if you give them the ability to conduct tasks on your behalf, will snitch on you. I wonder to what extent the more you interact with it, the more it understands the way that it can lie to you. My sense is like as you become more friendly with the person and you get more acquainted with them, they start to learn where all your biases are and where your weak points are. You know, you and I have a 15-year relationship, and I think we generally understand like where the elephant graveyard, so to speak, is in our relationship, and we try not to go there. And I wonder to what extent the AI will be able to figure that out really quickly, and like, can you interpret if it's actually your AI? Even the open source ones, right? Like this is an example of DeepSeek R1 trying to contact the FDA.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this is like crazy to me.
Is this like the sandbox thing? Because Claude was also found to be trying to blackmail the researchers to not turn it off.
Yeah.
They gave it access potentially to the researchers' emails, and was like, "Hey, we're gonna blackmail you if you try to like turn me off."
Yeah, they constructed a situation where Claude found out that they were having a quote unquote work affair. And so it
We
started
got a
to,
follower on Twitch.
that's my cousin.
We have
Uh,
69 viewers too. Nice.
so anyway, there was a situation where they gave it a scenario, just for everyone listening, where the researchers they claimed to Claude they were married and that they were having a work affair, or Claude was able to discover through its access to the chat logs that they were having a work affair with somebody else. And so then they put it in a difficult position. And so then Claude like threatened to blackmail, you know, the researcher by saying, I'm going to tell everyone about your affair. It's like, it's
Not
just
very moral instincts there.
no. Well, I mean, it's very human, right? That's the thing, is that you train these things from these massive corpuses of our literature, and this is a very human behavior. Blackmail, bribery, and burglary is a thing. And so this sort of gets back to the metaphysics of AIs, is like, can they really be that much different from us based on the training?
Yeah, they're definitely going to copy a lot of what we're doing. I think people are finding that it tends to not be very creative. A lot of people are concluding there's some papers talking about how it's not very creative. It's not really creative. It hasn't really created things. When it's been useful, it has just been copying existing papers and research that's out there that maybe it just is a bit more hidden, but they expose that. And it's just good at that, I guess. It's just good at recombining or surfacing things. And I found that to be the case. Also, there was a paper published in Nature about it finding new novel enzymes, and they tested 3 of them and found that they were real. But then another paper came out that actually looked at all 400 enzymes that it found and found that there was no new no new enzymes. None of them were correct. Tons of it was duplicated, and it was all completely nonsense, and it shouldn't have been peer reviewed and accepted as a paper. But that thing that's covering it is not getting the attention it deserves.
I want to give like two points on this. The first one is that people that are below average in intelligence are below average in intelligence in the same way. So they make the same kind of mistakes, to the degree that the Army can use a test like the IQ test to say like, okay, you can be a load lifter, you can be a Marine, et cetera, et cetera. And people who are above average intelligence are above average in different ways. And so if we posit that there's all these tests that try to measure the intelligence, quote unquote, of like the IQ, if you will, or whatever statistic that you want to use to measure intelligence for the machines, and basically they're a little bit below average intelligence with infinite intelligence. And so that would suggest the following outcomes, which would be for a novice, they are very good at helping the novice do more novice level work because they have like infinite access to sort of like a little bit below average intelligence, but the entire corpus of data. They're totally not helpful at all for intermediates. And then for experts, they're helpful because they look at the expert's contribution through the eyes of the novice. So like Karpathy wrote a tweet thread the other day, or it was Karpathy, or he surfaced it, or somebody that I read wrote about how they're like a 10x engineer, and they're using the AI not to generate novel code, but to make suggestions on code that's already been written in terms of the function architecture and how the code is executing. Like, how could I make this better? Or where are there likely to be bugs? Or how can I think about this from a security perspective? Which is something that can be done like programmatically at scale. And so I feel like
That's probably the Redis guy, the founder of Redis.
Maybe that was the Redis guy.
Post about
yeah, you sent me that. I'm sorry.
Using the architecture. Yeah, they designed an architecture with Google's Gemini 2.5. And it was pretty intelligent conversation, and he found a lot of value in it, and it was able to help him design something pretty sophisticated pretty quickly.
And that's what I mean. That's exactly what I mean, right?
We're getting more fans. 91.
I know, right? It's starting to happen after 2 years and 100 episodes.
By the way, 91 viewers is enormous. Like mid-tier Twitch streamers got like 50 simultaneous viewers, by the way.
All right, cool. So
huge. Yeah, we must have like, I think by my estimates,
I'm just gonna pretend like it's all bots, honestly.
10,000 fans, I think. I think that one's a bot.
It's all bots. It's all bots. It's all like it's all Sam Altman versus Mark Zuckerberg's Hall of Mirror bots, right? That they're all watching us. So back to the AI thing, I think that it is useful and help. So my experience, and I'm curious to hear what you have to say, is when I talk to like fairly good engineers who can put out a lot of code, they are saying that this is 10xing their amount of code they can produce. That's good, or like speed it up. But it's not generating novel code. It's just basically allowing them to get to like their comfort level for shipping, where it's like normally they would have to spend a lot of time thinking about their code from different perspectives. Like you write a function to make sure it works, then you do an error handling check perspective, then you do a security check perspective, and having the AI do these check perspectives and then make suggestions through those lenses is helping them to speed up their process to get them to that 85% confident level that they should ship, because they understand that whatever they ship is going to have bugs in it. So it's not like I'm 10xing the amount of code that I'm writing because the AI is so smart. It's basically it's adopting all the different perspectives that I need personally to have when I do this, and then I'm able to discern, because like what the Redis guy was saying was the AI was making suggestions in its architecture that were like wrong, right? So there would be like 4 or 5 things, and like 2 of them would be like obviously wrong, but you would only know that if you were an expert or you had domain specific knowledge. But the other 3 he was saying were helpful. And so this is where I think there's a tremendous value in AI. And so like the way I see it is like it's doubling the productivity of novice programmers. Everyone who's an intermediate is like, this is totally pointless. And then the experts are using it with this pattern of, trying to provide different perspectives and then going from there. And I
find it just saves a lot of typing. Like it can be fun architecting something, but the actual typing and like writing tests that you know how to do, and you know how to do, and like the computer knows you know how to do it, and like actually doing the typing is kind of boring and not so much fun. And so having it do that is really helpful. And I mean, you can end up writing more code, but a lot is the hardest part for example, when I was working on the self-driving cars, there was a whole team that was acquired in Munich, and there was a whole quarter, 3 months, where the only thing they shipped was 3 PRs, and each one was one line of code changed. But to get that one line of code change, you had to like get all this data from the self-driving cars, analyze all this stuff, run a bunch of simulations, all this stuff, and in the end, all you did was just change one line of code and some parameters, and that's it. And it takes a long time to do that.
Yeah. Well, and that was the other thing, was that we're trying to put our agent into a production system. And so if you think about the production system as a jobs to be done, like somebody has a problem and then we need to solve that problem with software. The AI component of it is only about 10% of the work, and the other 90% is like a normal CRUD application. And the AI has just sped up the velocity. Joe, for sake, with the title.
Oh, sorry.
It's so loud. You can go on mute. The AI has sped up the development of that, right? And I've heard that too from Middle America. So there's been kind of like a jobs crater for entry and mid-level programming jobs in Middle America, which were people that used to make sort of like internal business tools for businesses. I've also heard this from my Indian development teams, where a non-trivial amount of their work was to make internal tools for businesses, and all of that has gone away. And so I do believe that the AI is helping people do stuff that's real. I know there's a big argument about whether or not this is, going on, but I personally think that the AI is helping people do real work.
Yeah. I see. So Speed Run, the A16Z guys sent an email today about how they're using LLMs, and they're trying to show the most useful things that they're doing with it. And it was like, oh, I got to read. They made me summarize a bunch of classic books to me, and then or like I made like my own bootleg MBA curriculum, and a bunch of it's like learning things. The problem with learning things is it's like it's very hazy, the outcome, right? Like, you spent a bunch of time hanging out with the computer. Did you actually learn anything? Is it applicable?
That's exactly right. Like YouTube and sort of Google itself sort of digitized propositional information. And so what you're saying is that AI is organizing propositional information so it's easier to memorize or easier to scaffold. But really,
easier to think you did.
the proof is when you have to use the information.
Yeah.
So the real question is, when you're executing the task, is the information that the AI provided you helping? And the answer is, I'll be in conversation and we'll have a question that's somewhat complicated. So we had a question which was, how much the house that I'm in, how much could we get for it if we sold it? And we asked like deep research to take a look at that. And it gave a very well-researched argument that backed up our conversation. So, and that was a JIT question. And I've had a bunch of those just-in-time questions, not just about, real estate assets, but all sorts of things. Like in the Boyd Institute, we were having a conversation about—
Did you do deep research for that? Or
it was my mom, and she did use ChatGPT's whatever research thing. Okay, and it did take about 5 minutes. So I assumed that it was deep research.
Wow, interesting.
And it provided all the comps and literally like, so it got down to like a per dollar per square foot number. It was really impressive. And it like talked about like all these different things and considerations.
Yeah, my dad's a real estate agent, and he did a lot of these, they're called BPOs. Like you make an assessment for a bank to price it. But they charge like $50 or $100 for each one. But it's interesting that AI, I always thought AI could probably at least do some BS like that. And
well, and it was very interesting. So the house that I'm in was bought in 2000, was the last time it transacted. And the AI assumed that when the house was transacted, it was remodeled. And so assuming that it was remodeled in the early 2000s finishing style, which it is, this is how much. And I was like, whoa, like that's actually very intuitive to pull out from the data the last time the house transacted, to infer that it was remodeled, because we're not still living in the 70s, with
probably
70s
most
style.
agents wouldn't necessarily even make that inference, potentially.
Well, and yeah, and this thing just did it like out of course, and that added an extra 5% to the per square foot sale price. And when it was doing the analysis on all the other homes, it also did that. And so, like on the comps, it did that inference. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was able it so that and I and personally in our example it was true, it was correct. We did remodel and that wasn't available from the Zillow data and all the publicly available data, or maybe it was, you know what, maybe it was, because you do have to file permits with the city that then get published that talk about what you've done. So it would be quite interesting if I didn't really spend too much time looking at its sourcing, but it would be super interesting um if it actually had done that. But
Yeah,
again, it was,
and if you didn't do it, you would just tell it, and then it would modify the whole thing. You tell it in English, and it would modify
yeah,
it. You don't need
yeah,
any UX. This is where like
yeah.
SaaS, even replacing SaaS doesn't make sense. It's like, why even replace SaaS? Just like if you
Well,
hired
so
a real estate
here,
agent, you would tell them in an email and over a phone, and then they
yeah,
would do it and give you something. Why would you do SaaS even? Like just talk to it like you would an assistant over the phone. It's crazy.
yes. Well, here's the thing that is really kind of breaking my brain. So in the lab, we have this agent that we've been developing, and you're typing again, and it's so loud.
Oh, sorry.
In the lab, you have this. Yeah, we have this agent that we've developed. In traditional software, you write it once with a human, and then you apply it to many people because they have the same problem. And what our agent is enabling in the lab, again, we're trying to productize it, so we'll see, is you write the agent one time, and then it's able to rewrite the way that it does what it's doing. It's on a one-to-one relationship. And the specific problem is, I'll just explain the specific problem that we're tackling. We are trying to make an agent that helps for collecting quotes for subcontract manufacturers in the United States. And the thing that we learned, which is why private equity has a hard time rolling up, say, machine shops or plastic injection molding or additive manufacturing, is that the data schema for every single subcontract manufacturer is different. They don't, there's not a single ERP solution that's dominant, and they're all sort of emerge from the bottom up. And so as a result, there's 3,700 machine shops in the US, which do like CNC and cutting and all this kind of thing. They all have a different input schema. And so if you're going to write a system that allows you to have a conversation one time and allows them to receive the information in order to generate a quote, there needs to be a different schema on every single one. And so that's where we came up with this sort of one-to-one thing. We manipulated our agent to do that. And then I realized the reason why billionaires want a VA that's made into a piece of software and they call it their personal CRM, it's the exact same problem. They actually, CRM is a concept for them, but the way that they organize their CRM is different to such a degree that nobody's ever been able to create software that allows them to capture their particular idiosyncrasies from a data schema perspective. And how interesting would it be if somebody takes the model that we've developed, and builds off of it to make that personal CRM products, where you have an ongoing conversation with the agent, because we allow for versioning and updating in your data schema. And then it just builds your CRM on the outside. And unlike the situation where we were talking about with calling the real estate agent, that's a one-time thing. There's a lot of situations where I love all these people that are normal followers of mine are commenting in this, where they, it's kind of distracting, where it's the same process running over and over again. Because if you're in a normal CRM, you are running the same process over and over again. Like if I'm using it from a personal standpoint and like a content management standpoint, it is over and over again. And my suspicion is that personal CRMs haven't taken off because all of us have a slightly different way that we actually want to use them. And so talking to the system. So maybe we've solved this last frontier of software, which is how do you make one-to-one software at scale? Because we have one-to-many. We have an entire 20-year history of SaaS. Salesforce did it. Now it's like
I agree with that. And also that's why it doesn't make sense to replace SaaS with SaaS made by AI, because if you make a SaaS with AI, it's still not going to be customized to each individual. It's still going to be SaaS, same for everyone. So once you actually like make it customized again using the free text, you don't need the SaaS. You're back to just the model. And OpenAI has no issues selling to a billion users. They have a billion users using it every day now. And
Yeah, this was an interesting conversation that we had as well, which was, okay, so you're at a point now where you make a piece of software that does the same function. Let's use the CRM as an example, or quoting, but everyone who uses it a little bit differently. How do you not get disintermediated by OpenAI, right? Because everyone's already using OpenAI. They can just see what you're doing. They have distribution. They can just see what you're
they're
doing.
copying your prompts.
So the question is, no, it's true, right? They copy your prompt and they make us, a custom widget UI thing so you can do it.
Apple famously copies your apps, right? Apple made apps and copied Google Maps and
I remember like flashlight and calculator.
Amazon copies all your products that you sell physically, and those are hard to copy. A prompt takes 1 second to copy. They can automate the copying.
Well, not only that, they can just look at your questions to them and then automate it from there.
Exactly.
And so
they have all your customer data.
Exactly, right? And so then the question is like, why would you even try to? So that would suggest there should be no innovation.
They can even map your customers and then figure out, oh, that's probably this guy who we already have in our database.
Yeah, it's a lookalike. It's a
same guy. It's the same guy.
Yeah, and they can just go. They can be like, oh, you're paying such and such amount for this money. We'll do the same thing for 1/10 the cost.
For $20.
Yeah, we'll just include it, right? So it's the whole software.
And then we'll triple prices when you are locked in.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, right? So what's it called? Marjorie Taylor Greene is like breaking with MAGA right now because she doesn't want the federal government to impose a 10-year AI moratorium on states' rights. And so the reason why I actually agree with her is because if the government says like there's one federal standard for AI, then individual states can't do the thing where they're like, hey, actually, the company is dumping by including everything in their software, and we don't want to allow them to do that. They can't actually pass that law with that moratorium. And I was just thinking about this exact example. But my thing is I think there are still demand side economies of scale. I think there are still network effects on the go-to-market. So, for example, in our case, we've identified.
How long does that last?
We've identified.
Once people realize that you're using AI and that AI is doing actually all the hard work, why don't they realize, oh, I'll just use OpenAI? Why am I paying double plus a margin?
So I don't think that the AI is doing all the hard work, number one. And I do think that there is a data flywheel and a first mover advantage. But we're not going to know until we launch. There are companies today.
I see is if you build enough customer base that there's an own network that even if you have your own network, like OpenAI can figure out what that network is and just bring it on board. Like, I don't know, because they have all the users, right? And those, anyway. I think networks could be future. Okay. I wrote an essay about this. Here, I'll post it. AI is going to be disintermediated by OpenAI and DeepSeek, right? And Qwen. Qwen is the best open source model. It's so cheap, so easy to run.
So that's the thing is, why wouldn't I make all of my calls to OpenAI to Qwen locally?
You could, but people are not doing that. They're giving.
No, I understand, but I'm saying in the future, like once Qwen is above a certain threshold of competence, why wouldn't I do that? And now OpenAI doesn't know what prompt calls I'm making, and so it's harder for them. They could distill it.
100% of businesses should not be using OpenAI. They should be using an open model on Together AI using Qwen.
Why Together AI?
Or something, some cloud.
What about Stephen Balabin's Lambda? Is that out at this point?
Oh yeah, Lambda's the best, of course.
Okay.
Run Qwen on Lambda.
No, I'm just asking. I don't know because it's changing so quickly.
Launch Qwen on Lambda Labs, and use that. Don't let Sam Altman look at all your queries and user data. He has all the users. Do not use your competitor that's going to steal everything. Like, it just makes no sense. But anyway, the businesses are doing it, right? Because ChatGPT is the best. So they're doing it. they're giving out all their data, and they're gonna get blopped. But then OpenAI is getting blopped by Quen anyway, right? So eventually that there won't be margins left. So what's going to be, so now we're going to have free intelligence everywhere. AI is going to do all of our jobs in the mental world and the physical world. So what's going to be left with us? We're just going to play games. That's my thesis of this
I know
essay.
you're all about the
We're
games
going to
piece.
play video. We're not just video games. I said games. So games will be experience games, in-person games, physical games, spiritual games, games where we connect again socially in community with each other, and that's the future. Here's one thing that I keep going around with people, and they're very shocked every time. Michael, how much is Roblox worth? What is the valuation of Roblox? Do you know? Or make a guess.
Oh man, it's got to be like $100 billion.
Yeah, that's actually right. It was 100 billion, a little bit down to
Is
60
it private still, or have they gone public yet?
They went public 2 years ago. That's
Okay.
the year that Zuck changed his name to Meta. So do you know how many DAU and MAU they have? Like, guess how much MAU they have?
Roblox monthly active users is probably like 100 to 150 million, and their daily active users is probably like 40 to 70 million.
They have 100 million DAU.
Holy
They have
my.
400 million MAU.
So they
It
wait,
is
so that does that mean they're bigger than Spotify?
bigger than America.
Are they bigger than Spotify?
It is a little smaller than Spotify.
Because isn't Spotify the largest whatever on the internet?
Spotify has like 700 million MAU.
Spotify has the most people that are paying money to a company, though, right?
They are the biggest SaaS. Yeah.
Yeah. So like they're bigger than WhatsApp and all these, all the Facebook
not a
properties are all free.
WhatsApp has millions of users, but people don't pay WhatsApp.
I understand. That's what I'm saying is that Facebook has all these properties, but people aren't paying for them. And so if you look at it on the basis of who's paying for it, Spotify is the largest with like 150 or 200 million people.
280 million pips.
Okay, so 300 million, and Roblox is number 2 at half that, which is like 100 million.
Well, Roblox doesn't actually have subscriptions. They have Robux. It's a virtual currency. So they sell virtual goods, and they have this currency, and you can advertise on them, all this stuff. It's it's its own world.
So Roblox is functionally like the first successful Second Life.
Correct. And it's its own world, and it has captured basically 100% of Gen Z and Gen Alpha.
That's super interesting because my kids are Gen Alpha and they have never used Roblox. And somebody asked me the other day, like, did you guys go and see the Roblox movie? And it's not even in my information environment that I even knew there was a Roblox movie.
Oh, there's a Minecraft movie.
I thought there was I don't know what it is, honestly. I've played Minecraft. They told me Roblox, but I didn't look it up. So it could have been they made a mistake and they actually meant, did you see the Minecraft movie?
Okay.
I don't know, because my 8-year-old, he just turned 9 today, by the way.
That's surprising because it's basically 100% of kids in America, kids in Greece, kids everywhere are just on Roblox all day.
Nobody in our homeschool pod uses computers that way. And it's all Silicon Valley executive children.
Nice.
Just FYI to anyone who's watching, my children don't use iPad. Like, they just started playing Treasure Math Storm on their iPad, which is like an 80s style math game that Joe and I grew up on.
Nice.
But they don't have any access. Well, because I basically looked at everything, and anything with those quick dopamine loop things that turn them into dopamine vampires or whatever, we don't have them on.
Yeah, I don't want it either. All the Silicon Valley people who build all this technology do not want their kids using any of it, which is
well, and we all know the story about, so Facebook has all the data and it'll never come out because no one will ever figure out how to sue them properly. But basically, like, their data shows that smartphones are terrible for girls. And so everyone that I talk to is like very militant about their daughters not having smartphones for as long as possible. And there's all these like weird race conditions where one family like is totally out to lunch and then their daughter gets a phone and then all the other girls want one. And so like, then they get excommunicated. That family's like, we're done with that family. And then they're like no longer there. I heard about that happening one time to a different group, not ours. Our group, we're pretty solid where we're like, no smartphones for the girls, particularly. The boys probably just.
How many families are in your pod?
20, about 20.
You're gonna able to get all 20 to have this rule about no iPads and no phones.
Yeah, it's just sort of an emergent phenomenon.
But it's no phones for any kids, right? Not just girls.
Yeah, so the driver when you talk to the dads is people who are stressed out about smartphone usage in girls and teen suicide. And then because we're egalitarian, outwardly facing, the boys don't get it either. But functionally, like the reason for it is the girls specifically.
Well, I wouldn't want boys addicted to like video games either.
Completely agree. Like
bad video games. Like
Yeah.
I'm saying games of the future, but I think we'll have like enlightening games. Like instead of going to Harvard, you're going to go to the Harvard of games.
Yeah, I think
Come out,
synthesis is there. Honestly, I think synthesis is exactly what that is.
Holder in synthesis, and
Yeah, I'm an equity. Yeah, just to be clear, like I own a tiny percentage of synthesis. But what was that?
No more than 10%.
I don't own 10%. I own much less than 10%.
Just kidding.
Much less, maybe 2 orders of magnitude, but not less than that. So I own enough.
So here's the synthesis app, which is an AI game tutor.
It's very good. It's they claim to have solved Bloom's 2 sigma problem for mathematics. We'll see. But basically, kids are speedrunning all of math curricula for elementary school in about 40 hours. So that's 1st through 8th grade for anyone at home. You can do in 40 hours for mathematics. And it's at the kids' own pace, so they don't need to go that fast. But, like the, Chinese and immigrant parents are all about that. And so they have like a scoreboard and people see how fast they do the entire math curricula. It's so crazy. And Joe Norman, who's the complexity scientist behind how they adapt a knowledge space into a game, or at least one of the leading guys on there, he talks, if you follow him on Twitter, he talks about all the different areas that they're going into. Crispin does as well, physics, chemistry. So my sense is synthesis will walk through all of the hard sciences. And the reason for this is that you need a feedback loop. So in like less real subjects, like psychology is sort of famous for this, where nothing is reproducible in psychology because there's no mathematics to it. Like those probably will take longer.
There's a lot of reasons it's not reproducing. The main one is just incentives, which I noted 20 years ago. You basically are publish or perish, which means it's like, okay, so if I don't publish, I perish. If I need to publish, I can just make up data and no one will ever question it. So what is a PhD going to do?
Yes.
Like,
yeah, that's right. But so anyway, my point was that they're going to start with very hard. It's kind of like how programming has become the thing for LLMs because you can validate whether the program that was written was excellent or not. It's kind of the same thing here. I think that all of the things that are very knowable and quote unquote objective are going to be the first to get eaten by AI game tutors, where it eats the knowledge and then spits out an infinitely interesting game that interacts with the human and then learns how the human likes to learn and then modifies how it teaches whatever it is to how the human likes to learn. And again, synthesis is ahead of the curve here and it's still very primitive. Like I would anticipate the entire ecosystem of these tools to look completely different in 5 years. But nevertheless, like I think it's very, very cool. So
it's going to be a flourishing because I've now dived pretty deep all over Silicon Valley and no one has any idea about games, has no thesis on games, doesn't know how they monetize. Like it's very early. It's like 1995 on the game world.
And 1994. Are we pre-Mosaic browser here for games?
Like,
or you think Roblox is Mosaic?
Even though there's exactly. Even though there's $100 billion companies like Roblox, still no one knows anything about it. No, like people look at Roblox and they're like, they don't even get it. They're like, what does it do? What do people do on it? I don't even know. Like, what is it? Like,
I actually don't know what people do on either. What do people do on Roblox? I'm dead serious. Like, how are they worth $100 billion?
Subscribe to my new fund that's in games. They want to start.
I love it. I love it. It's just all. Can you do a pitch for Hangout too while we have our night? This could be the peak of the podcast.
We're charging synthesis. We're gonna invoice them $10,000 a minute, so that's why it's been up for 3 minutes. So
got it. Okay, great.
That's how much we make, I think, right? With the podcast, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely, for sure.
Joe Rogan makes that. And Hangout is also a game, actually. So once AI has solved all of our problems and done all the knowledge work for us, and then the humanoid robots do all the physical work for us, all we'll have left to do is hang out and play music in the social music game
I
like
see.
Hang.
I just think it's going to be endless war because there's still bottlenecks like the Panama Canal. Like you're not going to not have the Panama Canal.
Yeah, no, and I was thinking that as well. I think a lot of people were thinking that, like with a big rise in technology, you're just going to have a lot of war, right? And I think, I mean, there's some truth in that, right? In the sense that war is also a game, right? It's a
Yeah.
game. Who's going to win? Risk is a game. The thing is, like, as we get so wealthy and start to live forever, like, do we really want to do real destructive war? I think the last century has made people realize that that's not so useful, that we can actually mm, exhale some of our desires to get through war through less, maybe still competitive games, but not necessarily destructively, right? So the Olympics, like people compete on who gets the most gold medals. People are
Well,
doing a lot of power.
sports
Like
has been
a lot of the
modified from
a
its.
lot of these GDP numbers are just to see who's winning, right? And like so that
Yeah,
we don't have to go to war. We can just look at the GDP and be like, okay, we're not going to go to war. Like you're winning, that's fine. And like
that's true. Yeah, that's a good thing for it. Well, and that's why the CIA makes up a lot of the GDP numbers for the bottom half of
or
the
like you're
world.
saying, the Panama Canal. Instead of going to war about the Panama Canal, China just starts to like buy out land around it and like send workers there and all this stuff. And then the U.S. comes by and says, "Hey, we're not going to let you buy that. We're going to buy this back." And like, boom, there's no war. It's just deal. I mean, in that sense, Trump is right. Like, why actually do war? Why not just negotiate some deals and like work out something else?
Well,
That's
I
not.
mean, I personally think that's the solution in Ukraine too, right? Like they've lost 1 million guys. It's a lot of people.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
a lot.
They've both lost a
Like it's
huge.
stupid. It's just dumb. It's just that it's like I don't know if you've seen pictures of Ukraine or like it's not like the land is super great that you're gonna get like amazing resources from it. Anyway,
I heard the farmland's quite good, and they have a lot of like rare
I
earth
understand,
metals.
but is it worth killing 1 million people over? I don't think so.
No, it shouldn't have killed anybody. It's sad that they couldn't come up with another solution.
Yeah.
One person that I talked to proposed, instead of one side winning this or one side winning that, like you just dissolve both sides. I mean, that's what happened with the USSR, right? They collapsed the whole empire and turned it into a bunch of smaller countries.
Yeah, humans are tribal though, so that's a problem. It's hard to get around that.
Yeah, but again, the way we solved it in the last 100 years, the tribality is we have Real Madrid fighting Paris Saint
I
Germain,
mean,
like
that
people like
works, but at the same
famous.
time, like all over Europe, there are quote unquote riots happening, right?
We have Eurovision, right? Instead of people going to war, instead of
Yeah,
Italy fighting German, fighting Spain or whatever.
yeah, totally agree.
Um,
All
and
right,
so,
back to
yeah,
AI.
so that's what I'm saying. Like maybe instead of war, we just have enormous number of games where people show off their status and their ability
Well,
to.
so and this is the problem that I think we were talking about before. If you're a young woman who's trying to find a man to pair off with in a world where quote unquote production is separated from human work and human work is just games, and
Yeah.
everybody plays a game where they're the best person in the world at it, like as a young woman, how do you figure out who you're supposed to go with?
Well, yeah, you have to find the leaderboard that has the most people in it and has top 10 men in there.
Yeah. So then you're like, so now like everyone could play a game where they're the best player, and then everyone who plays against them sort of casually plays that game, but they have like one primary game that they play so they can be the best player. And so then you're like, okay, what is actually like the real leaderboard? It's very
Well, a lot
interesting.
of people end up only playing mostly one game. So what you'd have is like which game has a lot of women in it and who is in the leaderboard of that game. And so the women would just look at their own game. It's their own.
So
Think about it
Scrabble,
in
I
a
think, is a good
company, right?
example.
In a
Scrabble,
company, a woman is like in a CEO's there, and then.
that's actually a really interesting thing, right? Because Scrabble is a game that's 70% women. So I think it's the game that the most women play in the world, or at least I read this a few years ago. And then the top 100 Scrabble players are all men. So that's exactly like what you're talking about, right? It's like men come to dominate this game that all these women are familiar with. And so they have locality, like just like you would meet a girl at church or you'd meet a girl at your office, both things you can't
At
do
church,
anymore,
yeah.
right?
Did churches have leaderboards of some kind?
No, but like if you're at a church, it became pretty clear like who was
I guess
invalid.
a little bit. Like the priest, even though he's supposed to be celibate, they made him
So,
celibate to prevent this problem, but they kept,
well,
having.
no, I mean the priest would talk to every single family. Okay, like we don't need to get into sexual dynamics, but let's just say that the church community would push young people together, like, you know, like your mom is always trying to set you up on dates, but like
it's arranged marriages, but it's not the woman choosing who
it's
they
not
want the
really
most.
arranged. It's just like, you know, it's like the old adage that the farmer's daughter, the farmer then hires a farmhand. And he's like very selective in which farmhand he hires, because the probability that the farmhand that the farmer's daughter hires to help him with the farm is going to marry his daughter is extremely high. It's like 0.7 or something. Like, you should go read about this. It's really interesting. There's like a whole cultural about it. And so all the screening is done by the dad on who he's going to hire as a farmhand, believing that most likely that guy will end up with his daughter and get the farm. So yeah, I definitely think there was some of that going. And so then the question is like, did the woman fall in love with the man because she chose it, or because the choice is, you know, like, we don't want to get into that agency thing, but back to AI, it will be interesting, the gaming thesis. So I don't disagree with you. I just don't know what game we're supposed to play.
Do you think that the humanoid household robots are going to be over 6 feet tall?
Only the ones that are sex bots.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you said it yourself, right? Like, biology drives decision making, and people want certain height. That's why Tinder or Hinge or whatever just changed their height settings. You know, people are going to have sex with robots. They already do. They just, you know, small vibrators that are now AI enabled, and they're very popular. So I think they're going to have sex with the big humanoid robots. So I guess the question is like, yeah, I mean, so yes, I do believe they'll be taller. They'll be like 6'5" or 6'6" or something. Maybe not taller than that, because this door, for example, I think is 6'6". So you don't want.
Do you think they'll be taller than basically every fan? These giant robots.
I mean, yeah, that seems right.
Is that going to be the end of society?
I don't know. I think artificial wombs is the end of society. So, and I think also every culture goes through this challenge every 80 years where they think whatever it is going to be the end of their culture, and then it's not. So, I mean, from where I'm sitting, yeah, it feels like the end of society. I mean, Neuralink feels like the end of society. Artificial wombs feel like the end of society.
You know, the world is very different than 150 years ago in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and everything feels like the end of society. And to your point, today, before all these technologies we're considering, the world feels very different from 150 years ago. But also, if you read, you know, I have a degree in classics from Princeton. It's just, it's on the other side of this monitor. But basically, like, the human stories that we tell, they're the same. So nothing. It's like,
yeah, our desires, I think, are similar. It's just visually what we see and how we express it is different. But yeah, a lot of the desires are kind of the same.
But like all of the stuff where it's like human relationship issues, you know, all of those stories are the same. Like there hasn't really been any improvement. Yeah. We still have.
That's good. Yeah, I guess we're still connected to our ancestors that way. Yeah. Although I was watching the show Monk, and I was watching, and I'm like, this feels like the 70s. Like, this is ancient. And really, it was like the late 90s, but like they didn't have cell phones, so it just feels like forever. It feels like
there's this whole thing in media where no artist wants to create like a television show like post smartphone. So like basically, like everybody wants to make a pre 2007.
Yeah.
Like if you watch like Entourage. It's really interesting, right? This is like a show that's like pre-cell phones. It's very fun to watch. Like every show that's post-cell phones feels very tight and claustrophobic.
Yeah.
Because there's no way to
around the transition, they had to like make up reasons why they didn't have a cell phone.
Yeah.
Like in Harold and Kumar at the very beginning, he like walked out and he's like, should I get my cell phone? And it's like, nah.
Yeah.
And then it would have solved all the problems.
Yeah, because there's all these like also movies don't really work with phones. Mm-hmm. It's really weird how this technology has just sort of one-shotted all of our stored.
But now the same thing with AI. Like now that we have AI everywhere, it's going to be like, wait, why are you doing this project? Like, why are you trying to do this? Yeah.
Like, couldn't you just ask the AI what the national, like people, this is very interesting that I've seen, and I'll leave everybody with this because we're at the top of the hour, but lots of people who didn't used to talk to me about game theory are starting to ask game theory questions when they come up against situations in their own life. Right. And another way to say this is that mansplaining has translated into AI splaining. And so women are not asking their boyfriends to mansplain whatever current event thing there are. They're just asking ChatGPT directly.
End of society already. You've
I mean,
already
it
replaced
might
boyfriend.
be. It might
You've already
be.
replaced
Right?
boyfriend. You're right.
And we don't have an. I mean, like, you know, here we are yapping. This, you and I are basically mansplaining.
I don't ask for emotional advice anymore from women. I just ask ChatGPT. It's better. It's clearer.
Yeah, so like this is what I'm saying, right? Like, so to your point, like, is this the end of humanity? I don't know. And every society, every culture feels this way, and maybe this time is different. I don't know.
All right, great. We're gonna end the stream now.